For a stretch from the late 80s through the 90s, Meg Ryan was one of the most beloved movie stars in Hollywood. She wasn't just famous. She represented a whole kind of movie. Smart romantic comedies, witty banter, emotional vulnerability, big city loneliness, hopeful endings, and that unmistakable Meg Ryan charm. She could be funny, neurotic, warm, stubborn, sexy, vulnerable, and completely lovable, often all in the same scene. And of course, she was stunning in that warm, approachable girl-next-door way. But what made Meg Ryan special wasn't just that audiences liked her. It's that audiences trusted her. When she appeared on screen, people wanted to root for her. And over time, she became the face of the modern romantic comedy. But Meg Ryan's career is more interesting than simply saying she was America's sweetheart. She started out in quirky supporting roles, helped define the romantic comedy for a generation, and then, in one of the boldest moves of her career, tried to destroy the very image that made her famous. So while Meg Ryan has given us many great roles, this isn't just a list of her movies. These are our 5 favorites, and this is the story of Peak Meg Ryan, told through them. Before Meg Ryan became the queen of romantic comedies, she showed how effortlessly funny and appealing she could be in Innerspace. Directed by Joe Dante, Innerspace is one of those wonderfully strange 1980s movies that feels impossible to categorize. It's part sci-fi adventure, part action comedy, part romantic comedy, and part Martin Short panic attack. The premise is ridiculous in the best possible way. Dennis Quaid plays a test pilot who gets miniaturized inside a tiny experimental pod. But instead of being injected into a lab rabbit, he ends up inside the body of a nervous grocery store clerk played by Martin Short. Meg Ryan plays Lydia Maxwell, Quaid's ex-girlfriend, an ambitious journalist who gets pulled into the chaos. This is an important Meg Ryan role because you can already see the ingredients that would soon make her a star. She has the timing. She has the energy. She has the ability to react to absurd situations without making the movie feel too silly. She also jumps off the screen with her spunky short hair and those killer eyes that sparkle with mischief.
Spoken to me since
Since
Scrooge
when?
the cellar.
Since you kissed me. Kiss me again.
What?
Jack, can you hear me now? I'm back.
He's back.
Let's go.
And she has that quality great comic actors have, the ability to seem completely natural inside a completely insane premise. She also has real chemistry with Dennis Quaid, who would later become her husband in real life. Innerspace may not be the first movie people mention when they talk about Meg Ryan, and it may not even be the first movie people mention when they talk about great 80s action comedies. But that's exactly why it belongs here. It's an underrated reminder that before Meg Ryan became America's sweetheart, she was already a sharp, funny, magnetic screen presence. And in hindsight, Innerspace feels like the bridge between early Meg Ryan and the movie star she was about to become. Then came the movie that changed everything. When Harry Met Sally didn't just make Meg Ryan a bigger star, it gave her the role that would define her screen persona. As Sally Albright, Ryan is funny, specific, intelligent, optimistic, and just neurotic enough to feel real. The genius of the performance is that Sally could have easily become annoying. She's particular. She orders everything in a very specific way. She has rules. She knows what she likes. She has opinions. But Ryan makes all of that charming. She turns Sally's little quirks into signs of intelligence and self-knowledge. This isn't a woman being difficult. It's a woman who knows exactly who she is. And she looks so good in this film. Her appearance transforms throughout the film, beginning with a fresh, youthful, straight-haired look before hitting her all-time best with that big, voluminous 80s hair that became her most iconic and unforgettable look. And then, of course, there's the scene. The fake orgasm in the deli became one of the most famous comedy moments in movie history. It's bold, hilarious, perfectly timed, and capped by one of the most quoted punchlines ever.
Oh, God. Oh.
I'll have what she's having.
But the reason the scene works is because of everything Meg has already built into Sally. She isn't just doing a gag. She's making a point about men, women, sex, ego, and how little Harry actually understands. That's what makes the performance so strong. It's funny, but it's also character-driven. By the end of the film, Sally feels like someone we've known for years. We watch her mature, get hurt, build a friendship, resist love, and finally realize what she wants. This was the birth of Peak Meg Ryan, not just the actress everyone liked, but the actress audiences fell in love with. If, when Harry Met Sally, made Meg Ryan a romantic comedy star, Sleepless in Seattle turned her into America's sweetheart. This is one of the most unusual romantic comedies ever to become a massive hit, because the two leads barely share the screen. Tom Hanks plays Sam, a grieving widower in Seattle. Meg Ryan plays Annie, a Baltimore journalist who hears him on a radio call-in show and becomes captivated by the possibility that he might be the man she's supposed to meet. On paper, Annie's behavior could seem strange. She's engaged. She's listening to a stranger on the radio. She becomes increasingly fixated on a man she doesn't know. But Meg makes it work because she never plays Annie as foolish. She plays her as someone who senses that something is missing from her life. That's the key to the movie. Annie isn't just chasing a fantasy. She's recognizing that the safe, sensible life she's chosen may not be the life she actually wants. Meg captures that feeling beautifully. We can see Annie trying to talk herself out of the fantasy, even as she becomes more emotionally invested in it. She knows how crazy it sounds, which is exactly why the character remains believable.
This is Jonah Baldwin. We're not in right now, but you can leave.
Baldwin.
That's the key to why Sleepless in Seattle works, despite a premise that could have easily seemed ridiculous. A woman hears a grieving widower on the radio, becomes convinced he might be her soulmate, and starts imagining a life with a man she has never actually met. In the wrong hands, Annie could have come across as foolish, obsessive, or completely unrealistic. But Meg makes Annie feel sincere and human. She doesn't play the fantasy as childish. She plays it as a woman slowly realizing that the safe life in front of her may not be the life she truly wants. And on the other side, Tom Hanks gives Sam such warmth, sadness, and quiet decency that we understand why Annie would be drawn to him before they ever meet. That's what makes the movie so special. The performances by Ryan and Hanks, combined with Nora Ephron's wonderful script, turn an almost impossible romantic premise into something charming, funny, and deeply moving. Sleepless in Seattle works because everyone involved commits completely to the emotion of the story, and Meg Ryan pulls this off beautifully. By the time You've Got Mail arrived in 1998, Meg Ryan wasn't becoming America's sweetheart anymore. She already was. And that's part of what makes this performance so fascinating. In You've Got Mail, Meg reunites with Tom Hanks and Nora Ephron for a story that now feels like a perfect time capsule of the early internet age. The dial-up sounds, the AOL inbox, the excitement of seeing the words, "You've got mail." It all feels nostalgic now, but the emotional core still works because Meg gives the movie its heart.
All right. Is it infidelity if you're involved with someone on email?
Have you had sex?
No, of course not. I don't even know him.
I mean cyber sex.
No.
Well, you know what? Don't do it. 'Cause the minute you do, they lose all respect for you.
She plays Kathleen Kelly, the owner of a small children's bookstore in New York City. Kathleen is warm, thoughtful, literary, and quietly strong. Her store isn't just a business, it's part of who she is. And when a massive bookstore chain owned by Joe Fox, played by Hanks, threatens to put her out of business, the movie becomes about more than romance. It's about change. It's about what happens when the world moves on from something you love. Meg is wonderful in the role because she gives Kathleen both softness and backbone. She isn't a pushover. She's hurt, angry, witty, defensive, and deeply human. She can be charming in one scene and wounded in the next. And by this point, audiences brought their own affection for Meg Ryan into the theater. They weren't just watching Kathleen Kelly. They were watching Meg Ryan play a character who seemed to embody everything they already loved about her. That's the interesting thing about true movie stars. At a certain point, the persona becomes part of the performance. And in You've Got Mail, Meg Ryan's persona is operating at full power. It's cozy, funny, romantic, and bittersweet. For many fans, this is peak Meg Ryan in its purest form, And then Meg Ryan did something no one expected. She shattered the image. For years, audiences had known her as the warm, funny, charming romantic lead. She was associated with comfort movies, witty dialogue, and hopeful endings. Then she starred in Jane Campion's In the Cut. This was not a Meg Ryan movie in the way audiences understood that phrase. It's dark, erotic, unsettling, ambiguous, and deeply uncomfortable. Meg plays Franny Avery, a writing professor in New York who becomes involved in a murder investigation while beginning a dangerous sexual relationship with a detective, played by Mark Ruffalo. Meg completely transformed her look for this film, dyeing her hair a dark brown and cutting it into a short, choppy, edgy style with layers and bangs. It was a dramatic departure from the bright, sunny blonde that had defined her rom-com era. At the time, much of the attention focused on the film's explicit sexual content, including Meg's nude scenes and full frontal nudity. That became the headline. For some viewers, it was shocking simply because it was Meg Ryan. This was the actress millions of people still associated with Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. We weren't bothered, of course. She looked incredible in those scenes, and we loved it. But reducing In the Cut to controversy misses what makes the performance important. Meg wasn't just trying to be provocative. She was trying to escape the cage of her own image. Franny is not adorable. She's not quirky in a cute way. She's not the woman waiting for the perfect romantic ending. She's lonely, guarded, intelligent, sensual, reckless, and emotionally exposed. Meg removes the safety net. There is no familiar Meg Ryan sparkle here to reassure the audience. No easy charm. No comforting romantic comedy rhythm. Instead, she gives a raw, risky performance that asks viewers to accept her as something completely different. Many audiences didn't. The film was rejected by a lot of people when it was released. But over time, In the Cut has been reconsidered by critics and viewers who see it as a bold, misunderstood work from both Jane Campion and Meg Ryan. We loved the film and her performance, but whether you love the movie or not, it's hard not to admire the risk. Because this wasn't a small indie performance from an actress with nothing to lose. This was one of the most beloved romantic comedy stars in the world, deliberately taking a role that challenged everything her audience wanted from her. That makes In the Cut one of the most important roles of her career. It showed that Meg could be much more than America's sweetheart. She was an actress willing to risk that title in order to do something more dangerous. Of course, this is not a definitive list. Meg Ryan had many more memorable roles and performances. Many love her performance in Top Gun, where she brought unforgettable energy to a small but iconic role. You could argue for Joe versus the Volcano, where she played multiple characters and helped turn a box office disappointment into a cult favorite. You could include French Kiss, which remains one of her most beloved romantic comedies, or Courage Under Fire, where she proved again that she could handle serious, dramatic material. Meg Ryan's career can't be reduced to only 5 movies, but these 5 roles capture the arc of Peak Meg Ryan, and we found her to be captivating in each of these films. The early comic spark in Innerspace, the breakout brilliance of When Harry Met Sally, the full America's Sweetheart era of Sleepless in Seattle, the perfected romantic comedy persona of You've Got Mail, and finally, the shocking reinvention of In the Cut. Together, they show why Meg Ryan mattered. She didn't just star in romantic comedies. She helped define how a generation thought romance, longing, humor, and heartbreak should look on screen. And even when she tried to break away from that image, the reaction proved just how powerful that image had become. So what's your favorite Meg Ryan role? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel.